Jim, you can't always guarantee there'll be entertainment on WWE Raw, but there were a few things on this week's episode that were important, I guess, to talk about because they're follow-ups of some of the big angles and big things happening. So why don't we talk about what you saw this week on WWE Raw?
Well, this was the big Raw, Brian, the Monday after the big retirement match, the tap out in the Capitol. And as I said, I think earlier in the program that we're doing here, it's not going to affect the finish is not going to affect the goddamn financial stability of the company. And long term, it's something that is going to be a downer to some people. The people in the building Saturday night were not particularly overwhelmed with it, but the people that are here now are ready. Okay, well, we'll boo Gunther because they were all over him from the time they saw him. At the top of the program, they played the package of the last match, and you didn't have to, when you watched the package, Brian, did you notice you didn't have to sit there and watch him either hold or get that sleeper again for like 5 straight minutes? It helped the overall flow of the thing, didn't it?
Hey, now that you saw that video, what are your thoughts on the debate over if he smiled or not?
I think he just had it wasn't really smiling. It was just like a resigned, oh, it's over. I would have had my goddamn tongue hanging out and been drooling and gasping and my face turning blue. But I don't know what the fuck is going on there. I still think it was flatter than 4 o'clock because it took so long to get to that point, and then it was such a but the package, and here's the thing, not an appreciable amount of people are going to go back and watch that whole match again versus watching the package version that they're going to have for the next 5 years or whatever. And it's the video makes it look like a goddamn showdown, right? So, except if you were there that night, just remember, goddamn, I paid $16,000 and it just fucking flattered a plate full of piss. They might get by with it. Anyhow, Gunther comes out, and this was not only the best promo for getting heat for a heel that I've seen in a while, but also it was the fewest words that had to be spoken because he just walked out and gloated and laughed, and the cascade of boos and you suck and you tapped out. And every time that he would start to speak, the boo, he hates you, fuck you. But it wasn't like when they were doing it for Dominic's thing then was to get mad and get frustrated and make the boo-boo face, and that caused him to do it more. And that was his thing because he's the Weasley little heel. But Gunther the smile never left his face. And he just milked it. And he'd speak again, boo, fuck you. And finally, yet he's still, again, he's gloating like a fucking heel. And then all he had to say was, I did what I said I'd do. I made John Cena give up, and he tapped out like a little bitch. Oh, goddamn. And he left the ring and walked down the aisle, and then he gloated, and then he walked back to the ring, and that caused him to boo. And he got in and raised his arms and triumph, and they booed, and he walked out again, and he stopped, and he came back, and he went over to the announce desk and climbed up on that and told him again, I made John Cena tap out. He was a little bitch, and it's my time now, and a blah, blah, blah. And he laughed at them, and they're fucking pissed off. And then he walked out again. And the announcers were like, he's bathing in the hatred of the fans over what he's done. And then they kept the camera going with him when he went past Gorilla backstage, and he's laughing at like some of the underneath guys, and the people are seeing this on the screen. So he comes face to face with R-Truth. Here's a whole nother thing I'll go into here in a second. But R-Truth said, "You're nothing but a piece of trash." And the people pop, "Yay." And Gunther laughs at him and walks off. Brian, do you remember when R-Truth got fired and Ron Killings came back and had the Britney Spears moment where he cut his hair off and he's going to be a goddamn badass for about a week and a half?
Yep.
If John Cena was really his, what is he, his brother or his cousin or whatever relation, is that the best he's got? Wouldn't he want to attack him? I mean, did we even need to do that thing right? Or if they just said, fuck it, we gave him his job back and now nobody remembers they were upset and go sit in catering. Is that what they're doing with Truth?
I don't know. I mean, they've established that he's kind of this Cena guy, so he got a big pop when he appeared on the screen. For a moment there, I was scared they were about to do Gunther versus Tozawa. It seemed like, I was like, oh no, that's the only wrestler I see him walking towards. They can't do this. And they didn't, thankfully. You know, I mean, they wanted Gunther to have these run-ins with people, and people were disgusted, and no one does anything.
I agree from the Gunther standpoint, and I agree with everything except R-Truth. And right now, since they're going to do nothing with him, Gunther should just slapped him naked and hid his clothes, for that matter. But for a week and a half there, Ron Killings was going to fucking make his name known in the business, and all of a sudden he's back in fucking Goofy land. Anyway. So then Pierce comes up. Adam Pierce, are you proud? Are you proud of yourself? You're an asshole. He told him off and said, you're done. You can go ahead and leave the building. You're done for the night. And Gunther laughed at him. And he walked out the back door. And where were they? They were in Washington Saturday. Where were they for Raw? It's somewhere in the northeast.
Yeah, I forget where, though.
There's snow out there, and you could see the people's breath. And there's AJ Styles standing there, but he won't wear a coat because he's in a T-shirt. He's flexing his arms so they look good. And Gunther says, hey, you got anything to say to me? Anything you want to tell me? And AJ's like, get into your car and go.
Hershey,
and
PA.
Gunther, say again?
Hershey, PA.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No wonder the weather was miserable. And Gunther gets in the car and he's driving away. And as he drives past AJ, he rolls down the window and he does the "you can't see me" thing to AJ, and he laughs and drives off. And he literally maybe said 4 sentences in 10 minutes in front of the people and got more heat, and just the way he reacted. And there's so many of these guys that want to go out there and do some kind of monologue about now how they've done this and that. They're going to change the world and this and that and the other thing. And it's so prepared and it's so fake and it's so blah and long. This was a big prick. And again, he looks like just a narc that you just want to what the fuck, right? His clean cut look and his German superiority or whatever the fuck.
Austrian.
And he just Austrian, whatever. Somewhere over there. The point is he laughs at people. He's a foreigner that laughs at people and taunts them and degrades them and wipes his feet on them. And he got all kinds and it was like a 15-minute segment. You didn't get tired of it. And he wouldn't say anything. What'd you think?
I liked it. I mean, I liked the heat. It seemed like it was somewhat genuine. They know this is a guy who's a wrestler. It's not the same as it used to be, but there's legitimate anger over the finish, the booking behind it, you could argue. But Gunther the heel leaning into it was the right move. It worked spectacularly. We weren't told what he's doing next or who he's wrestling next. It was all of this, like you said, the first 10 to 15 minutes. Then he left. Were you surprised that was it? Were you surprised they didn't bring him back later in the show or do something to set something up on the show?
Well, no, because why? Because why? Why, how are you going to top that? And if he comes back out, Here's another thing. A lot of the guys, Bill Dundee, Dennis Condrey, a lot of the guys taught me this when I first got into business. Once you've got some heat, go and get the fuck out of there, because the longer you stay out there, the longer they have to yell and cuss at you and fucking vent their spleen and get it out. It's like Adrian Street, British wrestling may have been a different world, but Adrian, anytime we'd fuck the baby face or we'd do anything to get any heat, he'd want to stand out there and prance around. And as long as they were booing, he'd want, oh, yes, and, do his thing. And Dundee one night said, get the fuck out of there. I said, what? Get him out of there. And they told me, he said, again, when you've just done something and made the people mad, let them see it, let it register. Let them know that you did it. And then while they're still mad and yelling and throwing things or trying to get at you or whatever, get the fuck out of there, because they're not finished being mad. And they still haven't said all the things they want to say. And these people in the old territory days, they would get mad and yell for so long, they'd start getting tired. And they'd have to sit down, some of the old men or women, and, oh, she's, God damn, I can't. And by that point, they're finished with you, right? But if you do it and get out of there next week when they see you again, and another thing, does that make sense?
It makes sense. And, Gunther, although out there for, like we said, 10, 15 minutes, he left, he came back, he wasn't just doing nothing, so it worked, and he left with all this heat.
That's also the thing, is that when they think he's gone and then he comes back, they're like, you motherfucker, you're coming back. That's brilliant too. And that's in matches, a lot of the old time heels, especially when there was only 3 matches on the card, they'd set their match up where they'd take a walk, as they called it, almost back to the locker room and almost get counted out a few times. And then after 2 or 3 times, the babyface would finally get fucking fed up with it and run down there and grab the guy and carry him back to the ring. And now you've killed 5 or 10 minutes, and the people are standing on their feet screaming once he's carried him back to the ring, and you haven't done anything. It's like, all right, when he's leaving, yeah, well, good riddance to you. And he turns around and come back. Oh, goddamn, you more?
What do you do with Gunther next? Because CM Punk's obviously in a feud with Heyman and his group, so that's one of the world titles. Cody, what is Cody doing? I don't know what Cody's doing actually on SmackDown. So I guess that is an option, but beyond that, they set up, I guess you could say, maybe a match with AJ, but he's one of the tag champions. So what do you do next with Gunther?
But hold on. What does AJ Styles have in common with John Cena?
He's retiring.
So it don't have to be next week, but that might be a seed, because they've got Goldberg on the list. They got Cena on the list. Will they have AJ on the list? Is it building up to Brock?
I hope it's Brock and not Jericho.
I don't think it's going to be Jericho, because for a variety of reasons, I think Jericho would nix that, because that wouldn't be the way for him to go out being chopped by those giant meat fucking hooks. He'd want something a little easier probably, but we got cheated out of a rumored Gunther Brock match at one point, which is where that would be a real torch passing, because Gunther's whole gimmick is built on being the ring general. He's the closest thing they've got to a legitimate wrestler in the business today. I say he's Gene Kiniski with a fucking accent. And it just to beat Brock Lesnar man to man, that would be a torch passing. That would be a big deal for Gunther. This thing with Cena has turned out to be a big deal for Gunther. Goldberg, I think, was a popcorn fart. And AJ might just be to run the fucking scoreboard up. But Gunther and Brock, to me, would be the biggest thing they could do for Gunther.
Well, Jim, that wasn't the only promo on the show. I'm assuming you didn't watch Stephanie Vaquero and Raquel Rodriguez or anything else.
I got called away to the phone.
Well,
so I'm sorry about that.
CM Punk was also on Raw this week with a promo. What are your thoughts on that?
A like a Mussolini. And he's looking grumpy. See, I'm afraid if I hit the full high F note of my octave range, Brian, I'll flummox up your sound filtering devices.
You F those notes. I don't know if that's the F note.
Well, that's the thing, is that I'm the only one that can hit that. That's why it sounds so good and unique. It's my style. But Punk came out and straight to the ring. No, it's clobbering time. No happiness on the entrance, because he had a snarly demeanor is what he had, because he's pissed off. And again, where Gunther did a great heel promo without actually talking, Punk did a great babyface promo by, again, another example of, instead of writing shit and giving it to him, or memorizing other people's shit, or memorizing his own shit and delivering it in a goddamn monotonistic way, whatever the fuck, droning on, he's got emotion. He's got the facial expression. He has the inflection. He makes you believe that he believes the words that are coming out of his mouth. And he promoted the fucking match with him and the Netflix anniversary. Has it been a year already, Brian, since these two star-crossed lovers, WWE and Netflix, engaged in this union of holy fucking financiers? But it's going to be Braun and Punk January 5th on the Netflix anniversary. And he's selling the fucking match. He had to miss a couple weeks of TV because he wasn't cleared after War Games because of what Braun did. And at worse, he had to sit home and listen to TV to Braun Breaker talking. He called him a cross-eyed Neanderthal Nepo baby. And he did the promo on Braun Breaker and promoted their match. You can't do it without help from your friends and your mystery masked man. But ask Paul Heyman how many times he's gassed up a talent too soon and they've crashed and burned. And he told Braun if he mentioned AJ Lee, not Styles, but Lee again, he'd rip his eyeballs out and piss on his single-digit IQ brain, and then cut the promo on Braun and the whole family. Bring them all, your dumb father and his dumber brother Scott. Even with Steiner math, GTS equals 1, 2, 3. I mean, again, a nice blistering babyface promo that sells the issue, that talks about what's happened between the two of them, that gets personal and sells the match. And to me, that's what almost all the baby faces, especially in AEW, but even in the whole business, are missing today. Is the fans want to see the baby face come out and fucking throw down verbally on what they think about the fucking heel, what they think about what the heel's done to him, and what they're going to do to the goddamn heel. That's what he just did. But that's my thoughts on that.
I liked it. I thought it picked up, and it needed to. At first, I thought it was kind of like, Punk's doing it's just a promo. It doesn't really, I don't know, wasn't connecting with me. And then he picked it up, and the last minute or so, minute and a half, whatever it was all the fire, and it was great. But I thought maybe it's because he had to fill up so much time. It took him a little while to get to the stuff that he, did so well with there. But that was my only thought.
There was one part in between, like halfway through, where he paused for a second. And I thought that was going to be some kind of music cue or something. But I think he noticed, I believe in retrospect, he noticed somebody in the crowd was starting to chant something, and he thought it was going to pick up, and it didn't pick up. And he said, oh, well, fuck it, I'll go on anyway. But otherwise than that, that's the thing, is he couldn't come out slobbering at the very start of the thing because he had however many minutes it was. And so laying down the whole preamble before he took his jacket off and got into it was a way to lay some story out without having to goddamn be out there breathing fire for 5-10 minutes straight. And that's another thing that would help if they were being interviewed, because Punk does such a legitimate wrestling promo in this day and age, if that can be said, that he would benefit, I think, sometimes from the guy standing there with the microphone. So when he makes a big point, then the guy could just fucking stand there where Punk could fucking look out at the people and they could react. And then the announcer could come in with, well, on January 5th, that's right, on January, and just be the bridge, right? Because elsewise, a lot of times when they're chanting or whatever, it's the guy standing there by himself. It still looks odd to me, even though they've done it for so long now.
Well, Jim, that was CM Punk's promo. Of course, there was a main event that they set up all episode here. Logan Paul versus Rey Mysterio, and a lot of the main players would figure into this.
Well, and yes, and it was a nice match for what it was. But basically, again, it was set up simply to do the finish there because we're selling the Netflix reunion. I keep wanting to say reunion show, anniversary show, or maybe Netflix is a broken marriage and they're getting together. But so they had a good match. Ray does what Ray does. And then at the appropriate point, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed were going to come out and interfere, but Punk had said that he was going to have Ray's back. So they got about 10 feet out of the entranceway, and Punk came out behind them with a chair and whack, 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 and they turned around and ran back through Gorilla. So they fought off. And then Mysterio and Logan Paul continued, but Paul Heyman gave Logan Paul the brass knucks. But before he could use them, Rey Mysterio tripped him and gave him the 619, knocked him kind of goofy, and the knucks fell off his hand. So Ray is reaching out on the apron to get the brass knucks when the masked man, who apparently they repelled from the ceiling because nobody even popped that a masked guy was anywhere around, he runs up and curb stomps Ray on the apron, and then Logan Paul hits the splash 1, 2, 3. And then Logan Paul and the masked man face off like what the fuck's going on here? And Punk hits the ring with a chair, so both of them bail out, but the masked man runs up the stairs of the arena and then turns over, and as Punk is looking at him from the ring, he pops the hood, does the masked man, and it's Austin Theory. Surprise! And then in the ring from behind, when Punk realizes, oh shit, there's Braun Breaker, and Braun speared him and knocked him shitty and told Punk, don't ever speak that way about my family again or you'll never walk again. So do you think, Brian, because we knew it was going to be Theory because that's what people were saying, but is this going to be a thing now where Heyman's other guys didn't actually know that the masked man was going to do these things? He was in business for himself. It's Theory trying to get into the vision because he's the new young stallion, or is that the way they're going to play it? But why Logan Paul didn't know what the masked man was going to do there, or what's happening here?
I'm not exactly sure, because in the past they've also played it up like Heyman wasn't exactly sure what was happening, and they were also talking about, oh, Seth Rollins was in town, but he wasn't there, and so that plays into it. We now have to hear, I assume, Theory do a promo and explain this, or at least Heyman do it for him, but there has to be an explanation. He had a different haircut. I don't know if he had a hair transplant or what, but he had a different haircut. And
well, he shaved it almost all the way down to the nub again. I don't know. Maybe it's because I grew up in the 70s where everybody had hair everywhere. But again, that was a reason, a cause of dread that you would be humiliated by having your head shaved in a hair match. Oh my God. You're going to look like a bald-headed geek, and now everybody's doing it on purpose. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Do you think they did this well? Do you think they did this the right way, the reveal?
Yes. Again, it depends on where they're going. I think they did this particular piece of business good because, again, it heats up Punk and Braun on the Netflix anniversary, but also now after a few weeks, we know who the masked man is. But again, is it going to be that this is Heyman's secret ace in the hole, or is this going to be that he was doing this to try to audition for Heyman's group? And that's what probably Paul is going to have to be the one to tell us. But the thing is, behind the scenes, regardless of however they're going to explain it on camera, it makes perfect sense because Heyman's got Braun Breaker, who's the future of the industry. Heyman's got Bronson Reed, who, as long as he doesn't hurt himself again, and he seems to be able to adapt his work around that ankle foot problem, whatever, he's young and he's a superstar. Logan Paul, he's the goddamn celebrity superstar of the piece. Austin Theory, and I said this 5 years ago or whatever we first saw him, he's an uncannily experienced in the ring as far as the execution of shit, his technical work in the ring, his timing, his body language. He's a goddamn superstar. He's better than Randy Orton was at that age. He's the sky is the limit. And so Paul would want that in his group. It's just that was it that they, and Vince obviously saw the same thing a few years ago, but was Theory demoted or hidden to get the Vince stink off of him? Or was he getting a big head? Or I've never met him. Was he a goddamn idiot? And they were like, oh, shit. Apparently, Paul thinks that either these problems don't exist or he can modify or control them because in the ring, Theory, technically, in my opinion, is even better than Braun as far as the execution of his movement of his work in wrestling. I don't know where he thinks about psychology yet, but at the same point, Braun has the aura and the body that, surpasses everything. But again, Heyman's going to want the best young guys in the ring that he can mold in the way that he wants and that have 10 years or more to go with the company. So Theory makes perfect sense.
It's a hell of a group if they go that route. Theory, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, and Logan Paul with Heyman. That's a lot stronger than Seth Rollins with those guys because Seth Rollins didn't need that kind of group. These guys, it's going to help every one of them just being together. It's interesting to think about, I guess it would be now, it was probably the beginning of AEW, so like 6 years or so, whatever it was, when you first saw Theory in NXT, and despite him being like in a thing with Gargano, you saw past that, and you were able to see the talent, the look, and I think you predicted like this guy is one of the futures of the business, or he's a future main eventer at WrestleMania, whatever it is. It was an early prediction on him. And you did a similar thing with Braun Breaker. Of course, he has a little bit more of a wrestling pedigree, but still you saw him and you made that prediction. And here they are now, a few years later, and they're in something together. And, that prediction may come true and it may be one against the other in a few years. Who knows?
But I wish that I could crow about the prediction, but you would have to be blind, deaf, and stupid to not have seen Austin Theory and go, yeah, this guy is technically size-wise, appearance, size, physique, execution of shit physically in the ring. Like I said, I've never spoken to him, so unless he's either a complete idiot or an asshole, or he doesn't seem to be one of the indie-minded goofballs that he wants to be a spot monkey. But I mean, the timing and just the body language, the whole thing. I would have put him at that point in top 5 of all of my OVW guys that we ever had in the ring. Now, I worked with them personally, so I knew who was going to potentially, blossom also, and who might not be the swiftest foot in the race, but looking at him, yes, he would be a stand, as would Braun Breaker. They'd be a standout in any class I ever had in LVW. So it's not hard to see the difference between them and everybody else in the business at their age or level of experience or whatever. It's not like I picked somebody that had no attributes and was suddenly right after 5 years. They had, who could not have seen either one of these guys? You'd have to be a moron.
And also, like I said before, sets up an interesting dynamic when Rollins is ready to come back. Is he going to work with Punk to take down these guys? I mean, what's going to happen? But we shall see.
Well, Rollins is definitely going to be a babyface with the people because he's going to have been gone long enough, and because of injury, that they're going to be sympathetic to him when he comes back. And it's tailor-made that he's got a variety of grudge matches against everybody in Heyman's group.
Does he team with Punk? Does he work with Punk?
Well, but hold on. You could have Seth versus Logan Paul. You could have Seth versus Bronson Reed. You could have Seth versus Austin Theory. And the real money would probably be Seth and Braun Breaker. But then also, I still think that Seth and Punk ought to be Dusty and Ole. And it should never be over. They shouldn't, even when Ole turned babyface. No, we ain't gonna have anything to do with each other, at least for a fucking year, until finally, who knows what, by WrestleMania 2028 or whatever the fuck it is, and the big main events on the line, you could actually have a tag team match with Punk and fucking Seth against, I would assume, probably the Bronze, Reed and Breaker, but who knows what's going to happen on that other side at that point. And that would probably be, as a personal issue, a bigger draw than whatever else they might want to do.
Well, that was WWE Raw, the night after, or the 2 nights after, I guess I should say, the John Cena last match